Is personality testing bullshit? People love taking personality tests, but that doesn't make them scientific. Do personality tests actually predict important things about you, like how satisfied you are with your life, how many people you feel a deep emotional connection to, and whether you get promoted at work? In order to answer these questions, we rebuilt 3 styles of personality tests completely from scratch and carefully tested them in a study on 559 people in the US. Our approach was to put 3 of the most popular personality tests in the world in a head-to-head battle to see how well each really performs. Before I tell you how we tested them and which personality test outperformed the rest, let's quickly meet each of our 3 contenders. Contender number 1, the Myers-Briggs personality test, also known as MBTI. This is the most popular style of personality test in the world. It's also one of the oldest types of personality tests. Its earliest incarnation was when Catherine Briggs, entranced by the theories of psychotherapist Carl Jung, began informally classifying friends in the 1920s. She had been pursuing other research, but one day, after having a dream in which Jung appeared, she burned her own research notes. From that point forward, she devoted herself to Jung's theories. Her daughter, Isabel Briggs-Meyers, helped develop these ideas into a scored questionnaire, which was used during World War II to try to place workers into suitable roles. Since then, the test has undergone validation and refinement to turn it into the test that's used today. MBTI-style tests measure which side you lean toward on each of 4 opposites. Annoyingly, the way that MBTI-style tests define their terms is very confusing. If an MBTI test says you are intuitive, that doesn't mean that you're, well, intuitive. It actually means that you prefer to focus on abstract, big-picture patterns. You basically have to read each definition to know what each actually means. So what are the pairs of opposites that define your MBTI type? 1 is extroversion versus introversion. This is whether you're energized by the outer world of people or by your own inner world. 2 is sensing versus intuition. This is whether you prefer to focus on concrete facts or abstract big-picture patterns. 3 is thinking versus feeling. This is whether you base your decisions on objective logic or a more empathetic, feeling-based approach. And finally, 4 is judging versus perceiving. This is whether you prefer planning ahead or being flexible and spontaneous. For each of these 4 dichotomies, you get a letter based on which side you're on. These 4 letters form your Myers-Briggs type. If you are more extroverted, sensing, thinking, and perceiving, you'd get the 4-letter code ESTP. There are 16 of these combinations of letters, leading to 16 claimed personality types. Unfortunately, we hit a snag when we set out to use this type of test. The MBTI is owned by a company, and even its name is trademarked. So we created our own MBTI style test from scratch, which is the same theoretical underpinning as the real MBTI. We actually received a strongly worded letter from the Myers-Briggs company as a result of this research, which you can read in our full report. This brings us to contender number 2, the Big 5 personality test. This framework has a fascinating history. When psychologists were trying to figure out the nature of personality, they hit on a very clever idea. Rather than arbitrarily deciding what aspects of personality to ask people about, they asked about all of them. They took all the adjectives in English that could be used to describe a person and had people indicate which ones applied to them. They then used a statistical method known as factor analysis to see which adjectives clustered together. For instance, if you described yourself as organized, you likely also described yourself as punctual. And if you said that you are energetic, you also likely said that you are sociable. Fascinatingly, they found only 5 such groupings, the so-called Big 5 factors of personality. This theory has subsequently been studied and refined in hundreds of academic papers. It is the personality framework most trusted by academics. So what exactly are these 5 personality traits that psychologists discovered? Well, sometimes the acronym OCEAN is used to make them easier to remember. The first is openness. This indicates how open to new experiences, imaginative, and intellectual you are. The second is conscientiousness. This is about being organized, perfectionistic, and rule-abiding. The third is extroversion. This is about how social and excitement-seeking you are. The fourth is agreeableness, which is about being empathetic, altruistic, and polite. And finally, the fifth is neuroticism, which is your tendency towards moodiness and negative emotions, such as anxiety, depression, and anger. Besides having 5 traits compared to the 4 traits used in MBTI style tests, there's another crucial difference between the Big 5 and the MBTI. On each MBTI trait, you're either one letter or the opposite letter. For instance, you're either an E for extroverted or an I for introverted. The Big 5, on the other hand, instead assigns you a numerical score on each trait. For instance, one person gets a score of 7 out of 10 on extroversion, and another person could get a 3 out of 10. Keep this difference in mind, as it will be important later. As our final contender in the battle of the personality tests, we have contender number 3, the Enneagram. It's as much a spiritual system as it is a personality test. Its development began with the work of Bolivian mystic Oscar Ichazo. He claims that angel Metatron dictated key material to him during a psychedelic vision quest. Then, Claudio Naranjo, a Chilean psychiatrist, expanded on these ideas. While many people are proud of their Enneagram type, such as Type 3, the Achiever, think Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, or Type 5, the Investigator, think Sherlock Holmes, another perspective is that each type is linked to a disorder, such as narcissistic personality disorder or schizoid personality disorder. Others see the Enneagram system as mapping out your core survival strategy or your greatest blind spot. Now that we've reviewed our 3 contenders, let's get to the meat of our study that put them to the test. We recruited 559 people in the US using our participant recruitment platform, Positly. If a personality test is good, that is, if it accurately captures your personality, then it should be able to also accurately predict things about you. So, we asked each of the people in our study about 37 outcomes related to their lives, such as how satisfied they are with their life, how many people they feel a deep emotional connection to, and whether they've gotten promoted at work. The goal was to see how well each personality test could predict these 37 outcomes. That means that we had to administer to each of these people all 3 personality tests. Additionally, as a control, we collected the astrological sun signs of each participant, such as whether they're a Pisces or an Aries. Then, to measure the effectiveness of each test, we looked at how accurately we could predict each of these 37 outcomes about a person's life using just the results from that test. For instance, just knowing someone's MBTI-style personality type, could we predict how much that person meditates? What about how religious they are or whether they own a home? We took the average accuracy across all of these predictions to indicate how effective is each test. First, let's start with our control, astrological signs. Knowing which of the 12 sun signs a person was born under allowed us to predict these outcomes with literally 0 accuracy. We couldn't predict a single one of these 37 facts about a person by knowing what date they were born. Okay, what about the actual personality tests? Well, the MBTI style test had an average accuracy of R equals 0.11 at predicting these 37 life outcomes. This means there was a small correlation between your MBTI style personality type and the outcomes in your life. The predictions were not totally useless, but the accuracy is really pretty low. Enneagram fared only slightly better, with an accuracy of R equals 0.13. The Big 5 test was the big winner, with an accuracy roughly twice that of the MBTI style test. This also means that the MBTI style test fell halfway between the Big 5 and astrology. But why was the Big 5 better than the MBTI style test? We investigated this carefully and believe that we figured out the answer. Remember that MBTI assigns you a letter on each trait based on whether you're on one side of the dichotomy or the other. Basically, you're either high or low with no in between. The Big 5, on the other hand, assigns you a numerical score on each trait, which allows for more nuance. So, what if the MBTI style test were to use scores instead of dichotomies? We tested that, and doing so caused the accuracy of the MBTI style test to jump up from 0.11 to 0.15, a strong improvement, but still not close to the Big 5 score of 0.23. So what else could be at play? Well, another issue is that the Big 5 uses 5 factors, whereas MBTI style tests use only 4 factors. The Big 5 factor that's least captured by the MBTI style test is neuroticism. So, what if we remove neuroticism from the Big 5 test? Does that close the gap between them? Yep, it brings the Big 5 prediction accuracy down from 0.23 to 0.18, which is actually getting close now to the MBTI style accuracy of 0.15 when you use it with numerical scores instead of dichotomies. So we now seem to have our answer. The Big 5 is more predictive and accurate than the MBTI style test because the MBTI is missing neuroticism and loses information by using dichotomies instead of numerical scores. All of this research allowed us to do something that's really neat. We combine these 3 personality systems into a single personality test that you can use for free. We call it the ultimate personality test because it gives you your Big 5, MBTI style, and Enneagram results in one test in just 12 minutes. And it also teaches you about each test in the process. You can take it at clearerthinking.org/personality. We'll also put a link to take it in the show notes. If you found this video interesting, I'd love it if you'd subscribe. You can also learn a lot more about this research in our full report on our website, clearerthinking.org.